Media Day is done and dusted, and it's time to set these GT3 machines loose on the season. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the official start of the Race Anywhere World Series League, powered by Race Anywhere Sim 3D, Go for the Gap, and Absolute Sim Racing. My name is DJ Clark, joined here in the commentary booth by Ewan O'Leary, with David Christie as our director and producer behind the scenes, and we are here at the Circuit de la Sarthe, without question, one of the most historic venues venues in all of the world, and you and I can't think of a better place to get this season officially started at than here.
Yeah, it is a good place to start off a season here at Le Mans, but I can't say that I've ever seen this circuit used as a season opener before. It's really not very commonly used as the first race, but that's exactly what we're going to be doing here tonight. So a trip into the unknown probably for a few, but it's certainly a very recognisable track, a really iconic circuit, of course. In the world of motorsport, everybody will be very familiar with going around here, and I'm sure the racing will absolutely be suitable to this circuit as well, because these drivers are going to be going at it for 2 races tonight, and it's going to be very, very exciting indeed.
Yes, they are, and qualifying already set and done here, just waiting for the final 15-minute practice session to kick off before we get going into the race itself. And as we look at this circuit, Ewan, plenty of overtaking opportunities and plenty of areas to get it wrong around this circuit. Obviously, you have the 2 prime overtaking opportunities on the 2 chicanes down the Mulsanne Straight, as well as going down into the hairpin itself at the end of that straightaway. And then you get into the always tricky Indianapolis Arnage section. We've seen some moves be able to get done there, but it takes a brave soul to pull it off.
Yeah, it's there are some obviously moves that do require a bit of bravery around here, but as you say, there's plenty of opportunities down into both Mulsanne chicanes, Mulsanne corner indeed, into Indianapolis at the end of that straight, maybe even the Porsche curves as well. These straights are really, really long, and it allows for a lot of slipstream, especially in these cars, and so overtaking is not exactly easy around here, but it's one of the easier ones in the whole count. That the field is going to stay very close together throughout the certainly the early portion of this race.
And indeed they will, as now we grid up here, everybody getting ready to get going. And I can tell you that we will not have a full pace lap around here, so don't worry. But let's run you through the qualifying order here. It's going to be Sean Campbell lining up in pole position there. Excuse me. Harry Wills and Kai DL in 3rd. Alex Trevor will be 4th, followed by Chase Wilson and James Howard, with Drew Swank and Jeremy Moret at rest there in 8th place. Jonathan Roulette will line up in 9th, followed by Shane Larson, Jeremy Littleton, and Dave Menino round out your top 12 for the pro category. Gary Brown and Errol Urexoy will be 14th. And then what about the AM drivers there as we go, Ewan?
It's going to be Dean Timms who's going to be starting on the front row for that category. James Costa alongside with Chasis Venkatarayu. I'm sorry if I've got that wrong. In 3rd position, Fabian Ponce just alongside him. Eric Calaga will round out the top 5 with Michael Fowler next ahead of Russell Burton. Then it's going to be Justin Delano and Michael Calaga in 9th position. Braden Merling in that 10th position. Hopefully we've got his name right. Casey Metzger is in 11th position ahead of Drew Neubauer, who's going to be in the 12th place, and then 13th behind Neubauer. We're still got plenty of cars after that. Matthew Plaisance is next ahead of Charles Bosho, then Jeff Carollo, Stephen Martinez in 16th position. James Hebb is 17th ahead of Daniel Florea, John Casey 19th, Travis Kepler rounding out the top 20, then Andrew Hewitt in the 21st position.
And that will round out your qualifying order there. As we said, Sean Campbell and Henry Wills making up the front row here. Lamborghini leading the way, but in a whole flock of these new Mercedes-AMG GT3 Evos, seeming to be the favored car around here. You can see just how many of them are really and truly up at the pointy end of that pro category. So that's going to be something we talk about over the course of this race and races to come. Those class differences here, but right now, definitely looks like the Mercedes is the car to beat.
Yeah, and that's been the case from what I've seen throughout a lot of these tracks, really. It doesn't seem to be down to a particular track combination. Through a lot of the races I've seen, the Mercedes Evo has been very, very strong, and a new car obviously always is relatively strong in iRacing. And because if it was rubbish, then nobody would buy it. So it's got to be decent, and it is very, very quick in the Mercedes. So watch out for that one throughout this race. Although it wasn't quite as dominant at the media day at Road America 1 week ago. It's certainly coming into its own here at Le Mans. But we're coming towards the final chicanes now. The Pro and the AM cars have been split up into 2 different starts, if you like. And we are going to see this race get underway finally in a couple of moments' time.
Yes, we will, as the field brings their way through the Ford chicanes right now, bringing it out and around that first set and down into the second set. Sean Campbell, as we said, in that 26, getting ready to get on the loud pedal, and there he goes. It's not the best start from Campbell. They've got to kind of check themselves up because that leader needs to cross over the start-finish line, waiting for the rest of the field to gather up behind them. They're waiting a little bit here as they go to make sure they've got the green, and there it is. We are racing in Le Mans. It is a good pull away finally from Sean Campbell. The field's getting a little bit mixed up there with that confusion at the start, but R.A.W.S is going to hold on there for a second, a little bit side by side with Kai DL and Alex Trevor.
Oh.
And that is going to be Kai DL going way off.
Yeah, he was a little bit late on the brakes into turn number 1 there. Didn't want to go into the back of R.A.W.S into that first chicane, and so elected to go off the road instead. He drops pretty much all the way down the pro category by doing that, but at least he hasn't caused an incident. Nearly caused one actually off the start there when he was trying to anticipate the start, but he got things wrong. Sean Campbell made everyone wait a very long time to get going.
A very long time indeed, and that's really separated out this pro field as they run. Checking back here on the AM drivers as they go. Eric Kulaga leading the way right now from Russell Burton with Fabian Ponce, Michael Fowler, and Justin Delano, your top 5. The Audi, the one that is seeming to be the one to beat here in the AM category. Watch out, though. That car may get a little bit gobbled up on the straightaways. Not necessarily known for its straight line speed, but you never know how things are going to shake out with the massive amount of draft here you can get. This is Chase Wilson up in third place as R.A.W.S and Trevor in a nice little battle there through the first Bolshan chicane.
Oh, Trevor, what on earth has gone on with Alex Trevor there? He comes to a stop on the exit of the first chicane almost. I wonder if he's got a slowdown, but that's a very severe slowdown, if indeed it is. So he drops pretty much all the way back to the back of the entirety of the field there, in the pro category at least. So I've no idea why that's all happened for Alex Trevor, but he drops way down to 16th from the top 5 positions.
Yes, he does, focusing up a little bit further in the field. This is Drew Swank holding off Shane Larson and Jeremy Littleton behind him in those 2 Lamborghinis. It looked there for a second that Larson was going to be able to get a good run coming out of the second Bolshan chicane, but that didn't exactly happen. And now it looks like the door opening up behind for Jonathan Ouellette as they come nearly 3 wide going down the final part of the Bolshan.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Sean Campbell lost the lead as well, up front, because R.A.W.S is now leading this race, and the two of them pretty far ahead of the rest of the field. But into the Mulsanne corner, and it looks like everybody's just getting themselves sorted out, especially back here as Trevor tries to make his way back through the field. Also, Kai DL is going to want to make his way back through the field as Littleton goes slow out of the corner. Meanwhile, side by side between R.A.W.S and Sean Campbell, it's going to be the Lamborghini on the inside as the two battle towards Indianapolis.
And we talked about this a little bit at the start of the broadcast. You've got to be brave to get that move done, and it indeed looks like there that Sean Campbell is the brave out of the 2. R.A.W.S backing off a little bit, maybe just choosing discretion as the better part of valor. The rest of the field starting to filter their way down into the corners now. I'm getting the sense here that this is going to be a little bit of a breakaway battle between Campbell and Wills. Still almost 3 wide there in the back of the field.
Yeah, all kinds of cars going all kinds of directions there out of Indianapolis. There's definitely been some form of, if not side by side, then maybe even a little bit more severe than that, maybe a bit of contact at some point through that particular corner, but it's very, very packed up outside of the top 5 or so in the pro category. Up front it's 2s and 3s really, but further back it is a lot closer as we get back to the AM cars. Kulaga still leading.
Yeah, Kulaga able to hold that gap there over Fabian Ponce as they run. Michael Fowler looking like he's lost a little bit of time, but not too much. The Audi now is probably going to really come alive here as we flick our way through the Porsche curves. That is going to be an area of the track that I think the Audi will absolutely excel on. The BMW starting to close in, though, in the draft before they get to the curves.
And just going to stay behind and stay close, really, through the Porsche curves here. Fabian Ponce just looking to not get left behind. That's Michael Fowler just in behind as well here, as Justin Delano, who is about 2 seconds back from that, so it's not too close. But these top 2 certainly are. It's a great run through the Porsche curves for Fabian Ponce. He's going to get down the inside at Maison Blanche, which is not something you see very often, and into the 4 chicanes. He's going to go under brakes, and that is a very decisive move from him. Not entirely sure how he found the pace to do that, but he has, and he's got the AM lead.
Yeah, that was a very, very good and aggressive move there from Fabian, wanting to get that BMW up into the lead of the amateur categories. We've had a little bit of an off there coming down through Maison Blanche. That is going to be John Casey here in the 046 racing machine. Looks like he came up behind, tried to be a little bit too aggressive. 3 wide through the Porsche curves. That was never going to work.
No, and there was outside line. Katie just ended up in the wall, really. There's going to be damage on that car and a repair very much needed. No fast repairs in this series, remember, so that will have to be a stationary time and get back going again when the repairs are done. But if he can get back out there, then he will obviously collect a few points if he can complete 50% of the race.
And that's what he's going to be hoping to do. We take a look here at a little bit of a problem encountered by R.A.W.S for the Twisted Racing Orange machine. Ooh, that car just getting squiggly there, coming down through the curves. Maybe got a little bit of a bump there behind, but a snap of oversteer certainly won't cause that 63 to spin around from the beginning.
Yeah, and then there was just that little bit of help as well to really seal the deal. The BMW went around in the end, but thankfully able to get back going again, I think, as we go back to this real big train in the GT Pro category, at least. It's headed by Alex Trevor at the moment. He's made his way to the front of it. There's many different cars in behind, including Mark Chapman, who's just turning onto the back as the battles continue up in front. DL making his way through on Trevor.
And remember, Kai DL, one of those drivers that we saw have those incidents there in the early race as they went down into the first chicane. DL, the driver that took to the escape road there to avoid running into everybody, and now he's found his way back up into 9th place, leading this train right now. Gary Brown there in the back as well, trying to go. Kai DL, though, not out of the woods yet, as it looks like Alex Trevor's going to have a little bit of a response as they go down now into the Mulsanne hairpin. Is Trevor going to be able to hold that Mercedes out around the outside? It looks like DL's going to have the line, feeds him out, and they're going to remain 1, 2, 3.
It's a long way around there, and he probably would have been better just laying off a little bit and getting that exit onto this straight here and going through into Indianapolis, but deciding not to for the moment as Harry Wills takes the lead. Sean Campbell, though, down the inside at the left-hander, and the two going to run side by side through the bank turn. That was astonishing racing between the two of them. Was not expecting Sean Campbell to send that one down the inside, but he didn't care. He was going to go for it anyway, and that was very nearly a lovely move.
It very much was. A little bit of weaving back and forth here. We ride on board with Sean Campbell in the replay. You see the absolute infinitesimal margins there that Campbell had to play with, trying to chuck it down through Indianapolis. And Henry Wills, just by strength of will alone, no pun intended, able to hold it out. And now we're side by side through the Porsche curves. Campbell not to be denied.
Straight through once again, these two having a ding-dong battle here in the first race. The sprint race, of course, before we get a reverse grid in each of these categories to go for race 2. This is a great fight between Campbell and Wills, and it's not over as Harry Wills makes his way back through again.
And it looks like a problem there in the back for Eric Kulaga, finding himself wedged in between the barriers, but Will's finding an open door and absolutely sending that Mercedes on through it. He's going to hold the car to the outside here as they come through the Ford chicanes, and he's going to be able to probably have the lead as they cross over the start-finish line.
He will just about, although it's going to be pretty nose to tail. We've got Wilson and R.A.W.S just in behind as well. It's Chase Wilson who's doing the chasing at the front of that little pairing right now, but if these two continue fighting the way they are, then they are going to be caught here. A 55-0 from Wilson there, sorry, 55-4 from Wilson there. R.A.W.S with his best lap of the race so far as well there on lap 2. So it's looking good in terms of them getting back involved in the front of this race. This is though what happened to Michael Kulaga, who gets on the brakes. That Porsche behind was not expecting it and sends him straight into the wall.
Yeah, and that's going to be some pretty heavy damage to the front and rear of that Ferrari. May be a little bit race-ending here for the sprint race, as you said. But we jump back here on board with Sean Campbell, trying to keep Harry Wills within that second draft here, that Lamborghini, trying to take as much of the draft as possible going down into the first chicane. Not sure if he's going to be able to make the move or if he's just lining himself up here, but he has got one mega run.
He has. Is he going to send it down the inside? You always feel like he's hesitant to make that dive. Like he was lifting off maybe ever so slightly going down in towards that first Mulsanne chicane because he didn't quite want to risk it. But it's a really good run through that first chicane. And now surely he's going to have the chance, although he didn't really get that slingshot that he needed to try and make his way through.
No, Will's doing a good job to sort of check the car up at the exit of the corner to prevent the Lamborghini from really getting the full run that he wants to. And so now the RSR by Butt Kicker driver is just going to have to hold out behind here, waiting to see if he's going to poke his nose out into the second Mulsanne chicane. I don't think he's going to. Relatively content to stay behind here. Maybe just try to see if he can get a little bit of a move later in the race. This isn't the only battle that we have going on up front, though. Up for the other podium positions. Oh, as Charles Michel has it off and is around, coming through Tete Rouge.
That's on the exit of Tete Rouge, and there's something going on here before all of that as well, with Andrew Hewitt getting things wrong into the first chicane. Props to him for actually making it, but unfortunately loses it on the exit there. Quite a lot, especially in real life, the drivers just bomb across that chicane, which is, but fair play to him for actually attempting it, as Charles Boschel recently getting that place, but gets all over the curve at Tete Rouge and has the slowest spin known to man, really, and unfortunately noses straight into the barrier. That's going to be quite a lot of damage and probably a repair at the end of this lap for him.
Yeah, more than likely is, as your leaders fanning out here, almost flying in formation down the run into Indianapolis, waiting to see who is going to be the last to break as they work their way now down through the right-hander, this kink, and it looks like that's going to be Campbell back up to the pointy end of the field as they work their way through the banked left-hander that makes up Indianapolis. But this is turning into a titanic battle between these two, and because of that little back and forth that we saw in the back between Wilson and R.A.W.S, they're able to still continue to work their way ahead, a gap of about 4.5 seconds now existing between second and third.
It's an absolutely classic battle between Campbell and Wills at this stage. It's yeah, really good fight at the moment. We're approaching half distance in this race, but because the laps are so long here, it's very unlikely, well, it's practically impossible that we're going to see anything other than 7 laps in this first sprint race, 25 minutes, and then throughout the longer race it just gets a little bit more complicated because we do have that pit stop to add into the equation as well. But this is a really nice fight between Campbell and Wills, and hopefully something that we will see more of as the season unfolds between these two and between some others as well, because Wilson, Rust and Timms now are in that top 3 also, and yeah, they've not got bad pace themselves, as my goodness, James Howard finds himself in the wall in a big way there.
Yeah, that one just looked like he lost control of the car coming down through the Porsche curves, and that was all she wrote for that Mercedes, sending him out and around. Want to give some love here to the R.A.W.S Scuderia driver of Fabian Ponce, who's able to pull away from Kulaga. Remember, we saw that battle starting to erupt a little bit earlier on, and just absolutely putting that car through its paces here at this point. Fabian pulling away from the rest of this amateur field.
Yeah, and the battles in behind are helping him here a little bit as well, because Kulaga is coming under a bit of pressure now from some of the drivers behind. Jeremy Littleton is just behind him there, not an AM driver, but is a pro driver that's a little bit out of position there at this stage for Twisted Racing Team. Then we have Michael Fowler, who is second place, and then we've got Melling as well, with Metzger just a few seconds behind. But that's a bit of a train in behind, and Kulaga's going to have to keep an eye on his mirrors, which is going to play into the advantage that is now growing for Fabian Ponce.
Yeah, it certainly is, and only about, let's call it, just about 12 minutes here to go in this session. So Ponce doesn't have that much to work on about it. A good little battle, though, between Kepler and Burton diving down into the corner there. That got a little bit hairy, a little bit lucky, I think, there for Burton not to get a little bit of a hit into the side.
Yeah, I mean, Burton was very sure of himself that he was clear there going into the first corner, and I personally wouldn't have done it, but he certainly thought that, you know, he was absolutely fine to chop across the nose there, and in the end he was, but it was mighty close, as the Lamborghini of Jeremy Littleton is going to get through here on Eric Kulaga, as the battle for the lead continues to rage on. It's hard to take your eyes off this at the moment. Sean Campbell holds on, though, this time into the second Mulsanne chicane.
Yeah, it looked like a little bit of a half-hearted effort there, it has to be said, from Harry Wills. I don't think he was full send into the second Mulsanne chicane, recognizing that there's plenty of time to go. Now moving this way and that way, trying to see if he can send a little bit of a fake out on Sean Campbell. This is going to set up a heavy braking battle down into the Mulsanne hairpin. Who is going to be the battle of the late breakers? And it looks like it's going to be Harry Wills able to get that Mercedes up in front.
Yeah, it's a nice move. Harry Wills once again up in front, but you can't imagine it's going to be for much longer. Sean Campbell is right behind him again and will look to make that move. Once again, inside line. He's going to just have to go across that curve just a little bit, but should be the move into Indianapolis for Sean Campbell, although the worrying thing I think for him is that the Mercedes does seem to have a slight edge in a straight line. You can see now they're neck and neck, despite the fact Campbell got the run and the slipstream into this corner.
Yes, he did, and there it does look like, though, that Harry Wills is going to back off a little bit, just choosing to keep that Mercedes in line behind Campbell. Now, they are coming up against John Casey there. That is an AM driver. Now we've got a little bit of a battle in the back, Mercedes versus Mercedes, as this is Trevor and DL. Remember, we were following this earlier. DL trying to work his way back up forward in the ERS by Skyline Designs, number 44 Mercedes, and it looks like he's going to back off there. Good battle going on in the back here. This is Chapman and Menino getting side by side.
Very late on the brakes for Chapman there to make his way through, and just about pulled it up in time, although Menino is not quite done with this one yet. He breaks early into R.A.W.S to try and get the run off the corner, but the Mercedes was placed in the right place to prevent the other Mercedes from getting a real run. Roy Brown also trying to get himself through as well Gary Brown, I should say. Trying to get a bit of a run on both Mercedes to try and make his way through, but won't be able to. Looks like they'll stay single file into the Porsche curves.
Yeah, trying to sort themselves out a little bit. You saw Menino kind of poking and prodding this way and that to see if he could get a good enough run, but really and truly, the Porsche curve's not the area that you want to try to get a pass done in. This is an area that you just want to follow up, maybe set yourself up for a run down into the curves, as there they get their way by that lapped Ferrari, doing a good job to stay out of the way there, stay out of trouble, as now it does look like Chapman's been able to open up a little bit of a gap. I think Menino a little bit cautious of doing that, but here we've got a nice little battle starting to play itself up. This is Mailing and Fowler as they start to duke it out a little bit. Excuse me, this is Mailing and Kulaga. This is up for P2 in the AM category.
Yeah, so some of the pro cars that were out of position have got their way through now on these AMs, and it has helped the battle for second really start to filter out. Fowler just a couple of car lengths adrift at this stage, not really involved, but he will be looking to get involved over the next few laps. You can see Metzger there in the background. He's quite adrift at this stage, so it's really up to these guys for the podium now. It's all allowing Ponce to get away in terms of that battle for first place. This battle for second is going to rage on till the end, and Melling does look strong.
Yeah, it certainly does. All of the BMWs that we're really seeing out here do look like they've got a little bit of an advantage here. We talked a little bit about the battle between manufacturers. The BMW noted to be a little bit more courteous in a straight line, a little bit quicker, but we've got to focus on the battle for the lead right now, because Harry Wills and Sean Campbell not letting this fight go at all. That's Wills to the inside, Campbell to the outside in that red RSR by butt kicker Lamborghini. They're in an absolute drag race out of the second chicane.
Still neck and neck, locked side by side into the first chicane, and Campbell has the inside line, so he'll be able to make his way through. I guess the most impressive thing about this is that they're fighting so hard up here for the lead, and why wouldn't you? But they're getting away from the rest of the field all the while. Over 7 seconds now is the gap back to the three cars battling over third place in a very similar fashion to these guys, admittedly, but the fact that those two are still getting away from the rest is really remarkable considering the way they've driven this race.
Yeah, it certainly is, and I think it's because of that battle. So we've got another little side-by-side there in the back. That is going to be Larson now trying to hold off Swank as they run down into the Mulsanne hairpin. Let's see who's going to be able to hold that out. As now we've got to go back to Harry Wills and Sean Campbell. You can't take your eyes off these two. They go down still side-by-side. Who's going to have the edge going down through the sweeper into Indianapolis? Let's see here who's going to back off.
This is why Le Mans creates such fantastic racing, because of the straights and because of the racing that you get. Outside line for Harry Wills through the right-hander. I think he just backed off a little bit there, really, to let Campbell go through. He decides to live to fight another day, does Wills, and he will attempt to do that into maybe the next lap. But still 2 laps of this to go by the time we get to the line here. I know there's only just over 6 minutes, but it will equate to 2 laps. We will get a 7-lap race out of the sprint race here, and who knows who's going to come out on top. It really is a coin toss, I should say, at this stage.
Yeah, it is. I think it's just going to be a potential battle of sometimes that we've seen like on an oval circuit of working your way backwards and figuring out where you want to be on that last lap as you run to the checkered flag. So it's going to be a little bit interesting to see here if maybe R.A.W.S decides to hold back a little bit on this next lap, not go for the overtake, to just position himself forward. That'll be absolutely fascinating to see because this battle I don't think has any history of dying out.
It doesn't look like it's going to, and we certainly don't want it to in the final couple of laps in this race. We want this to go right down to the wire, and it might well do. This battle for second in Am as well might well do. Fowler now is on the back of Kulaga because Melling has got his way through, and he's brought the gap down to 2 seconds to the leader. However, is there enough time left on the clock for the two BMWs to fight this one out for the win?
Yes, indeed. We're going to have to see if they're able to close back in. Only 2 seconds. Oh, Mark Chapman around there coming through the corners.
On a straight. I believe that's on the straight down towards Porsche curves. How on earth did he find himself in that situation? Gary Brown is also going slowly and in the pit lane again. So I wonder if those two have come into contact. The suspension damage for Chapman. He's just trying to get out of the way of everybody there and spins across the road. Thankfully not collected by anybody, but Chapman has definitely been into contact with Gary Brown. I'm pretty sure of it.
Yeah, I think you're right there, Ewan. And there you can see Chapman at rest in the pit stall. A very, very long tow time around here. There is Gary Brown having that problem. And yeah, that is coming out of R.A.W.S. You can see the contact between himself and Chapman. And that is what precipitated that event for Mark Chapman.
I think he was coming out of Mulsanne corner. Didn't see the start of it, but either way, those two have definitely had contact. And that is a lot of curb from James Costa. He goes spinning around very nearly. Gets back going again. Thankfully keeps on the straight and narrow. There are those two. They will be they'll be receiving points. I think they've got over half distance in this one, but nevertheless they are both in the pit lane together as the leading battle continues on again.
Yes, it does, and I think we just heard in our ears that this is actually going to be the final lap, so we're only going to get 6 here in the books, and that's going to amp up. No, excuse me, we are hearing a correction on that. We're not sure exactly how this is going to shake out, but this is going to be a battle down to the edge no matter what happens.
Yeah, they're going to cross the line with just over a minute to go, probably a minute and a half to go maybe at a push. And that does equate to 1 lap to go. It's when the leader crosses the line that the race will end, not when the timer runs out. So there's going to be a little bit longer for some of these drivers, especially down the back of the field. As R.A.W.S just defends in the middle of the road at the moment, trying to make Sean Campbell decide which way he wants to go. Well, straight up the middle as well is Sean Campbell's answer, at least down into Mulsanne corner. I wonder if he's figured out the ideal place to be going on to the final lap, because leading at Le Mans to going on to the final lap when you're in a battle like this is not always the best place to be.
No, it certainly isn't. As there we see the Georgian driver, Russell Burton, having a little bit of problems. And here comes the run here from Sean Campbell going down the straightaway here again. We've seen this time and time again. These two absolutely on these exact same lines, completely equal as they come down into the corner. It looks like they're the R.A.W.S backing off just a little bit.
Big slide from Campbell there through Indianapolis, through the right-hander. He held on to it though, and Wills is going to have to pick up the pieces here and try again throughout the remainder of this race. As behind, Melling has all of a sudden lost a lot of time here. He recently got into 2nd place, but now he's under pressure from Fowler for that 3rd, and he drops off the podium.
Bit surprising there from Brayton. Not exactly sure what happened for the ERS by Skyline Designs driver. May have just had a bad run coming out of one of the chicanes, and that can certainly blunt your momentum enough to be able to stop you from being able to get your way forward. And I think that may have been what came to befall the BMW driver.
I wasn't expecting him to lose 2 places and nearly 4 seconds though. It's a pretty big mistake for that to have happened, but the BMW just seemed pretty towering in a straight line and looks down the inside immediately at Indianapolis. No move there as Fowler has to just readjust midway through the corner in classic Audi fashion. Goes wide! Oh! And he goes off into the gravel on the outside, and he's going to drop places due to that spin.
Oh, Michael Fowler there just having a little bit of problems. I wonder how much damage is on at the front of that car. That's not going to help it running into the rear end there. Watch out for the rejoin. Oh, that was very lucky of Martinez to be heads up to get on by. And I got to say that Audi doesn't exactly look to be in the best shape here.
He smashed it on the rear end there, reversing, trying to get back going again. I understand why, but yeah, he's damaged the car. It's Shane Larson. Oh, nearly caught it well. and unfortunately the car just gets away from him right at the very end there through the Porsche curve. This is what happened for Fowler. Just tipped a wheel onto the gravel on the outside. How many times did we see that in the real 24 Hours of Le Mans actually? A few weeks ago, so many cars just tipping a wheel on the grass there and ending up in the inside wall throughout the whole weekend. It's present here on iRacing as well, but a shame for Fowler, who was in that conversation for a podium. As we go on to the final lap, R.A.W.S versus Sean Campbell. Who is it going to be to win the first race of the season?
Well, it looks like R.A.W.S certainly not wanting to wait around there. He is going to move that number 95 to the outside here. What will be the inside of the, what will be the outside rather of the first chicane as they go in heavy onto the binders. There you can see both cars buckling with the force of the braking as they go down through the first chicane on the Mulsanne straight. Campbell looking for a better launch here. Again, this is going to be the point in the race where we try to figure out who's going to be where, how they want to position themselves going down probably into the Porsche curves, is that's going to be one of the last realistic overtaking opportunities that you are going to get. Campbell makes the move.
Looked like a bit of an indecisive one. A weave to the right-hand side, the outside line going into the second Mulsanne chicane. He's clearly decided that he would like to lead here at this stage, although R.A.W.S breaks later into that corner and retains the lead again. I'm not convinced that the lead is the best place to be right now. The best overtaking opportunity certainly seems to be down towards Indianapolis there. If you're in second position, you can drive past and make that move. And there's not a lot that the leader can do about it. So I'm not entirely sure why Campbell is trying to get these moves done so early on in the lap. However, he is setting himself up nicely now. If he just eases off slightly early into Mulsanne corner, gets a nice run out of here, he will have the position into Indianapolis. And I think that's going to be hard to reply to.
I think you're right, and I think you've got an earpiece directly into the ear there of Sean Campbell, because he was doing exactly what you said there, Ewan. That Lamborghini now looking menacing in the rear view mirror of the Mercedes, but it's going to be R.A.W.S that holds to the inside line now. We've seen him try to work around the outside here plenty of times, but Harry is now going to have the inside line as they go down into that kink through the corner. Who's it going to be? I don't think either driver's really going to be wanting to back off here going down into it, and that's going to be Campbell carrying momentum around the outside.
Yeah, it absolutely does, but Wills is not done with this just yet. He might even have a pop at R.A.W.S here, but Campbell realises that he's never going to go for that, and so doesn't defend fresh air. He makes sure he gets the best run possible out of that corner, and it was an excellent R.A.W.S there from Sean Campbell. R.A.W.S needs the Porsche curves of his life here if he wants to get anywhere near that Lamborghini. Otherwise, I think Sean Campbell has got this race won even.
I think you're right, but we're going to have to see if he's able to catch up here as they work their way through the Porsche curves. That Lamborghini tends to have pretty good rotation. The Mercedes a little bit more understeery, but still a good car to be able to wheel its way around. Campbell really has only two more corners, and one more corner that he really has to defend, that going into the first of the four chicanes. R.A.W.S trying to see if he can come up behind here, letting the car run wide, pushing to the absolute limits of the track on the exit of Maison Blanche. They now go down into the four chicanes. Are we going to see a pop out here from R.A.W.S? He's thinking about it. He's going to go for it, but Campbell shuts the door through one, now through the second, and coming across the start-finish line, it's going to be Campbell that takes the win.
Wow, and a flash of the lights from R.A.W.S over the line with a little bit of disappointment, of course, but satisfaction with how that battle was. It was a great fight between the two, and in the end it was sealed with a really nice pass on the outside of Indianapolis and a really good corner at R.A.W.S as well to make his way down the inside and make sure that the overtake couldn't be replied to by R.A.W.S into the Porsche curves. A great race between the two of them, but they're going to have their work cut out in the second race coming up because they did quite so well in this first one.
Yes, they did, as we saw there, a replay of Metzger getting it a little bit wrong, going down through Mulsanne. Now watching Shane Larson on the R.S by Skyline, decides number 17 Lamborghini Huracan crossing over the line there. He will take 11th in class. Back into the AM category, though, it has been since the beginning of the race, really. Fabian Potts, who has absolutely put on a clinic here, a gap of 5.7 seconds as the number 16 crosses over the line to take victory in the AM category.
It's a very different story down here in the AM category. Potts was able to really slowly go over the line there, cruising over, because he knew that that race was won from relatively far out in the end. The gap about 5 seconds in his favour, but the battles were continuing on up and down the field in the AM category. Casey Metzger, after that spin, just misses out on 6th position right at the end there, as the final cars will come over the line soon. But yeah, very different story to what we saw at the front of the pro category.
Yeah, very, very much so, as Ponce just able to get his way ahead and really have no problems. And we follow here Andrew Hewitt for HRL on the number 7 as he works his way down through the Porsche curves, just waiting for everybody to finish up their last lap here. Pretty good lines there for the Ferrari coming out in a round. I'm not sure exactly what happened to Hewitt, but obviously finding himself a little ways down here in the order.
Yeah, there's been a few drivers who are going to be a bit disappointed with this first race, but that's the beauty of the Race Anywhere World Series GT3 Championship. There's 2 races on each night, and the second one is a reverse grid race. So if you do underperform throughout the first one, and you will be able to get to the front of the order for the second race. That's a real vault across the curves from Andrew Hewitt, who'll come across the line in 15th position, but start in 6th in the AM category, I believe. Because there are 20 cars, so that's going to be a nice start for him, and we'll see what can happen throughout the race. But only 0.3 of a second separating 1 and 2 in this race.
Yeah, not a lot separating them, and I've got a feeling that battle is going to continue on as we get to race 2, with Campbell and Wills taking victory here over Chase Wilson and Dean Timms, with Jeremy R.A.W.S rounding out your top 5. Alex Trebor there in 6th, followed by Drew Swank. Kaidiel able to recover from that first lap incident into 8th, followed by Jonathan Ouellette and James Costa there in 10th. Shane Larson, Dave Benino, Errol Ureksoy rounding out your top 13, with Jeremy Littleton in 14th and Mark Chapman a lap down in 15th. Gary Brown and James Howard both, unfortunately, DNFs here today in the pro category. But what about the AMs?
Ian Ponce cruising across the line to take victory here ahead of Braden Mailing. It was Eric Hulago rounding out the podium. Matthew Plazos just missed out ahead of Steve. He was ahead of Stephen Martinez, though. And Travis Kepler was 6th. Casey Metzger, after that late spin, finished in 7th. He held off Michael Fowler, who also fell back during that race, as did Justin Delano, actually, in 9th. James Hebb rounded out the top 10. Michael Colago was the final car within a minute. Jeff Carollo just outside of that. Charles Posser was 13th, ahead of Drew Neubauer. Andrew Hewitt made it over the line there, the final car on the lead lap, as you just saw at the end there. Daniel Florea was 1 lap down. Russell Burton 2. John Casey a few more after an incident earlier on in that race. Looking down the order, I do think that Eric Blumenkrantz also was an AM driver who didn't make it to... yeah, there we are. It's 5 laps down for him. Shez Venkataru was the 20th driver and final driver in the AM category and overall in that race. However, it never really got going. I think the lap 1 incident actually for him there put that car out of the race very early.
Yes, it did. And now as we wait to get gridded up here for the second race, we are lucky enough to be able to be joined by a couple of the drivers from that first race out on track. First and foremost, we have your 3rd place finisher in the pro category, Mr. Chase Wilson, ready to join us here. And Chase, 3rd place there, but not without a fair share of battles to see you there.
Yeah, it was a great race. There's a lot of different setups going around the track right now where you can see some strengths and some weaknesses of some cars, but we were locked in there for P3. I think there was 3 of us in a train for the whole race, just keeping us honest.
I mean, it really, really did look that way, and some good battles continuing to play themselves out there. Do you think you had anything for those leading 2, or was it just a matter of losing the draft and not being able to keep up with them in that way?
Yeah, I think we got separated early on in the race, and instead of being able to push each other back up to that lead pack, they just kept kind of taking a step every lap away from us. Hopefully I can find some guys around us in this next race starting from the back, and we can work our way forward and work together a little bit more.
Well, talk to me a little bit about the strategy coming into this second race. Obviously longer, you're going to be starting from the back in the field. Is this going to be a patience race, or are you going to be trying to push your way forward early?
I think 100% a patience race. I think we're going to have to be real conservative with tires and real conservative with fuel. I think it's really going to come alive in that second stint once we start to see where everyone's going to flush out, and hopefully we're able to keep up with the leaders while we're fighting through before that pit stop.
Well, we wish you all the luck in the world, Chase, and we're not going to keep you from prep. So, but anybody you'd like to thank here for a good run in race 1?
For sure, yeah, my teammate Drew, and then always shout out to the family. I think they're watching on the TV at home, so hi Wilson clan, and I'll see you guys later today.
All right, well, there you go. That was Chase Wilson, your third place finisher in the pro category. And you and I believe you've caught up with Brandon Malang, who was able to get second there in the AMs.
Absolutely. Braden, good to have you here in the commentary box after a good performance in race one. But talk to us a little bit about driving here at Le Mans in these GT3s. It's a season opener. I have to say, I've never seen a season opener at Le Mans. So how is it to compete here tonight?
Well, I gotta say, it's like absolutely fantastic. This is probably one of my favorite tracks to drive on the entire service. I mean, just a few weeks ago, we were racing the 24-hour here in LMP2, but these GT3 cars can be a handful around here. Just going through the Porsche curves in Indianapolis, you have to try and control the car so much to not have that rear end just snap out on you.
You speak a lot in GT3 about the different strengths and weaknesses of the different cars. What are the particular strengths of the BMW you're handling here tonight, and of course the setup as well that you've decided to take on this circuit with?
Well, I'd have to say the BMW is probably the most well-balanced car out of all the GT3s. I'm not sure about the Merc too much since it's the new vehicle. I haven't really raced against it much yet. But I've mainly been trying to keep this car as stable as possible. Trying to keep the car on the track that gets better positions.
And one final thing as well before we let you go and get ready for race two. Of course, it's a reverse grid, and you did very well in the first race, so you're going to be quite far down the back in the AM category. What are you hoping for? What are you expecting from this 50-minute race?
Well, I'm honestly hoping that it's a good, clean start. We don't have any major accidents within the first few corners. Like it's just going to be a bit worrying trying to get past some of the guys up front who are in the back of this race, so they might be a bit slower on pace. So it's just trying to weave your way through traffic safely and efficiently.
So we look forward to seeing you out there once again for the second race. We'll let you go and get ready. Braden, thanks very much for coming to join us, and congratulations, first of all, on your first race performance.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Thanks very much. There we go. Braden Mailing there from second place in the AM category. I believe that the AM winner might just be joining us now.
Yes, he is. And let's bring him on up here into the booth. Fabian, a great run there for you, although it looked like a little bit of a quiet race. You kind of got to pull away from the field there.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear, Fabian. Yeah, talk us through that race. It looked like you were just had the class of the AM field.
Yeah, on the first lap, making a difference. And the Porsche corner. Sorry, my English is really, really bad. Sorry. Uh, but I'm so happy for the result for the first race.
Well, we are happy for you, my friend. Is there anybody you'd like to thank for the run out there, and what can we expect for you in the second race?
Yeah, man. Maybe top 10, top 5, maybe. Pero I can't wait for the second race and wait for start the sim. For it's really slow to lot to track and really no, it's really slow. Really 50%. Well,
I have to agree with you there, my friend. It is taking a while for us to get going, but congratulations on the
Thank
run.
you.
We can't wait to see you out on track.
I want speak Spanish for salud.
Go right ahead, my friend.
Bueno, quiero saludar a todos que están viendo, que tengo unos amigos que están viendo, really friends here, I'm watching the race. Y gracias por el apoyo. Gracias, muchas gracias y nos vemos. Thank you.
All right, thank you. That was your AM class winner, Fabian Ponce, as they ran. And that's going to bring us to a quick break here as we get everything loaded up for race number 2 for the Race Anywhere World Series Leagues as we come back for this second longer race from Le Mans. Welcome back to the Race Anywhere World Series. My name is DJ Clark, joined here in the commentary booth by Ewan O'Leary with our director and producer David Christie behind the scenes. And we are here at the Circuit de la Sarthe for the second race as it runs. Ewan, we saw a truly titanic battle at the front end of the pro field last time, and I've got to think here we are in store for yet another great battle as we get ready to run for this second longer race of the night.
Yeah, double the length of this race, of course, but it is a reverse grid from what we've just seen in terms of the results there, so that will keep us interested and nevertheless. So, yeah, let's see what happens, really. I couldn't really decide which race was more exciting through the Road America Media Day. Both in the EU and the US, really, they were pretty similar. So if this second race is anything like that battle for the lead that we just saw in the first race, then it's going to be fantastic because Sean Campbell and R.A.W.S there really did put on a great show.
Yeah, they certainly did. And let's not forget some of the battles that we saw further down into the field. This Circuit de la Sarthe really living up to its expectation and anticipation of putting some good battles all the way down through the field. Obviously, that battle for third with a really three-way battle in the pro category, as well as those multi-car battles that we saw down in the AM category as well, really making everything come to life as they ran very, very excited. And it looks like here that we are ready to go through the qualifying order. Now, remember, this is set by the race look, the previous race with inversions at the top, so it's going to make things a little bit more interesting. Gary Brown and Mark Chapman going to be making up your front row here with Jeremy Littleton and R.A.W.S in P4. Dave Benedetto lines up fifth, followed by Shane Larson with James Costa and Jonathan Ouellette in eighth place. Kai DL behind them with Drew Swank flanking him in row 5. Alex Trevor and Jeremy West there in P12. Then behind them, it's going to be Dean Timms and Chase Wilson, and then Sean Campbell and Harry Wills, those two from the Titanic battle that we saw earlier, making up the rest of your pro field. But what about back in the amateur category?
In the AM cars, it's going to be Thomas Fisher, maybe, but taking that to start, or maybe Daniel Flair, who knows. Andrew Hewitt certainly going to be up there, though, with Drew Neubauer and Charles Boschart, fourth place with Jeff Carollo running at the top 5. Michael Kulaga fell down a little bit towards the end of that first race, but it gives him a good chance in this second one. James Hebb will be 7th, then of Justin Delano, then Michael Fowler and Casey Metzger round out the top 10. Travis Kepler and Stephen Martinez will be lining up on row 6 of that grid together. Then we got Matthew Plaisance in that 13th position ahead of Eric Kulaga. Braden Mailing is in 15th ahead of Fabian Ponce in 16th. And then those who did not get the 50% distance through that first part of the through that first race did not get to reap the benefits of the reverse grid, because otherwise you'd just not finish and you get towards the front, so we don't want that. John Casey, unfortunately, though, Eric Blumenkranz and Shreyas Venkata who are going to have to start from the back, nevertheless, despite the fact they finished down towards the back in the first race as well. It's very much a reverse grid, though, as we were expecting. That's exactly what this series is all about here in race number 2. The 50 minutes coming up here at Le Mans, it's going to be very, very exciting indeed. It's going to be a little bit chaotic as well for a few.
Yep, very chaotic for sure. And don't forget that we do have that mandatory pit stop that will take course over the course of the running. So that is going to be something else to throw a spanner into the works as we run. But up front here, we watch Gary Brown and Mark Chapman as they lead the field around behind that Porsche pace car, getting ready to go racing. And we heard talking to a couple of those drivers that this second race is going to be really a race of patience to be able to move your way up through the field. And I think that is going to be the key for everybody today.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's what it's all about, really, in these reverse grid races, no matter where it is. Especially, though, in GT3s. Maybe a little bit less at Le Mans because overtaking is a bit more easy here. However, it's still going to be very much a heads-up moment for everybody as we come to the green flag.
Yes, it is, as everybody starts to form up their way outside of the Ford chicanes, ready to get on the loud pedal, waiting, and there goes the green. We are racing at Le Mans as everybody streaks away. That's a good start there for Gary Brown in the lone Porsche in the pro category. He is going to lead the fields up through the sweepers right now. A little bit of side-by-side there in the back between R.A.W.S and Larson, DL and Swank as they go. Dave Menino also trying to be a little bit aggressive as they go. Trying to see what it is, 2 by 2 as they come up through the corners, and we jump back to the AM field.
Yeah, 2x2 pretty cleanly, really, for all those pro cars there. Gary Brown holds a nice lead there ahead of Mark Chapman and Jeremy Littleton as they make their way through Tetris, and we watch these cars going very slowly through the final chicane, getting themselves ready. It's going to be Daniel Florea who's in control of the field here in that McLaren, of course. A very nice Gulf livery McLaren, I have to say. Waiting, though, on that start. It's going to be a long hold once again.
Yes, it is, as we wait there for Daniel to get going and to get on the loud pedal here in the AM category. And there goes that very brightly liveried McLaren leading the field up through the sweeping curves here to get this 50-minute race up and going as they go, trying to see what it is. Looks like Florian Neubauer trying to see what they can do. A little bit of side-by-side action there in the back as everybody filters their way up through the first chicanes. Looks like we're cleaning through.
It looks like oh no, not here though. Out of the first chicane. It's Jeremy R.A.W.S maybe who's made his way into contact, is it? No, it's not. It's Larson actually. Shane Larson, sorry, in the Lamborghini a little bit further down. Where are the likes of Wills and Campbell? Sean Campbell's made nice progress. He's inside the top 10 already. Harry Wills, though, is only in 12th position after just missing out on that first race win, of course. He's trying to maybe get a one in race 2. But it's Sean Campbell who's really the main of the contenders, making his way through the field very quickly indeed. He's got a nice little lead as these three are getting away from the pack.
Yes, they are, and we saw how crucial it was there in the first race to be able to try to extend that gap a little bit. You're able to break that 1 second toe. That can be all you need, but the battle here between Gary Brown and R.A.W.S may scupper a little bit of that as they go, as that may allow for some drivers to be able to inch their way up forward. Kai DL, the first of those, putting on a little bit of a block there on Ouellette coming through the corner as they fan out nearly 3 wide out of the Mulsanne hairpin.
It is very, very tight back there, and look at this. Kai DL has made his way through. Oh my word, that's quite a name. Thomas Fisher, though, down the order there, 15th position at the moment. You can see Jeremy R.A.W.S, unfortunately, already in the pit lane. Not sure if he did actually get damaged after all of that in that one, but yeah, this is pack racing at its finest, almost like a super speedway NASCAR race, if you like, down towards Indianapolis. The top 3, it's a lot calmer up here, but back there in that battle for 4th, it's very close.
Very close indeed as we jump back to the battle here in the AM category. This is Justin Delano trying to hold off a little bit of attack from Heb. Everybody running very, very close to one another as they go. Almost 3 wide. Hoo-hoo!
Straight through the middle there in the Porsche. I think that's Delano, who's just very deep under brakes and into 3rd place after going straight through the middle. Florea, after taking the green flag first in the AM category, is already down to 8th place. So he's dropped 7 places. Not entirely sure if they were all overtakes or whether there was contact. There certainly was back there as one of the Ferraris as Stephen Martinez goes around.
Yes, indeed, and I believe that maybe John Casey as well that got into him. It looked like a Ferrari on Ferrari hit, as it were. Looks like Kulagas had a little bit of a problem, dropping 2 positions down through the field.
On a straight, though, so I think he might have just gotten overtaken, although I'm not entirely sure, as the leaders go through, oh goodness, into the Indianapolis corner. Carolo there was under a bit of pressure from Delano, although he got things slightly wrong into the left-hander, and so will fall back a little bit, and Carolo will try and chase down Neubauer, who's going to get a nice lead out of this opening lap.
And remember, the last time out, we saw Fabian Ponce really be able to get that exact situation, as we are noticing here that Harry Wills may have had a little bit of something going on there. We'll have to figure out what that is. A lot of drivers. Oh, Dean Timms as well involved in an incident. A lot of drivers falling down through the field. There has been a big, big incident coming through for the pro field. Yeah,
quite possibly. Mark Chapman's in the pit lane. Shane Larson as well. But we saw his accident out of the first Mulsanne chicane. Yeah, goodness me. Has there been a crash? I'm just wondering if there actually was a crash there, because 5 cars being taken out straight away is something quite rare. I think there might have been a mass disconnection there in the with those 5 cars, because they were all in the same point in the racetrack, and when you escape back to pit lane, you get your car actually registers as being at the start of a lap. Those guys at the moment are about 4/5 of the way round at the moment, so I fear slightly that there might have been a mass disconnection there between those 5 drivers.
Yeah, I think you're right, Ewan, as we watch a good little battle starting to break itself up here. That's Sean Campbell in the Lamborghini, who was able to just eke away there in that last race. Remember, as he works his way up forward through the field, he started all the way back down in the last of the field, and that may be a little bit of a bump draft we're seeing coming into play. You mentioned stock car racing before. I think these boys are certainly pulling that in, as that was Kai DL giving a little bit of a bump to R.A.W.S.
Yeah, and it looks like Schwank's going to try and get himself down the inside as well, try and follow through, but there's not much room. And the BMW just about gives it to him, but holds on to third place at the very least, as just behind, Sean Campbell is in the 5th position in that Lamborghini. It's been such a great start for the Race 1 winner. He surely has to be favourite to take Race 2, despite the fact he's got nearly 5 seconds to make up on Jeremy Littleton.
Well, he has just got absolute pace here, and that is the thing that you need to have around this Circuit de la Sarthe as we watch R.A.W.S. trying to close back in on the back of Kai DL, currently holding on to P2 right now, but Jeremy Littleton just pulling away out in front as they run. He's got that 2.8 second gap, crucially out of the effective draft range, and so that is going to give him that nice little buffer to be able to run away and just run a race of his own.
Yeah, it should be, but it's all about trying to hold on for the length of this race. It's a longer race, of course, so it does make your life a bit more difficult. R.A.W.S. closes right in, and he's going to make his way down the inside into Indianapolis to try and get that BMW back in front again, but Kai DL swings around the outside and should have that position now. I think he does have that little bit more pace than the BMW, so should be able to get away by the time the next real opportunity comes at the first Mulsanne chicane.
Yeah, he'll at least be hoping to do that as they get moving and hustling there out of R.A.W.S. The 3 drivers there running in pretty much a straight line, R.A.W.S. and Swank, as they go. The BMW falling back a little bit to the Mercedes of Kai DL as they come out of R.A.W.S. Going down into the Porsche curves, that's going to be Swank trying to make a little bit of a move. Going down, is he going to be able to get it done and dusted? Looks like he's going to push R.A.W.S. just a little bit wide, and that has allowed for Sean Campbell to get right back up involved in this action.
Yeah, he's very close indeed through the Porsche curves, and maybe even trying to make a move right around the outside here, although he's going to stay behind just for the moment. So 5th place for Campbell, but some nice run off of the Corvette corner. Oh my word, that was close between himself and R.A.W.S. But he does make his way through side by side, and he's up into 4th place already.
He's up into 4th. That is a good run there for him, trying to see as they go if anybody's going to be able to fight back on that. R.A.W.S. falling his way down through the field right now. Not exactly looking like it's the best of runs there for him. Is he going to find himself under pressure here from Dave Menino?
Possibly into the first couple of corners. R.A.W.S. really has been falling down through the field just that little bit throughout the opening portion of this race, really. And it's not been the greatest start. Wasn't maybe expecting that little bit more pace from him, but unfortunately, it doesn't look like he's quite got it. Sean Campbell is also applying that little bit of pressure for the 3rd place right now.
Yeah, keeping it up as they go. That's exactly what you got to do to try to really keep pressing here, is just keep that car up and ahead, trying to see what it is, put up that pressure, and a great run out of Touch Rouge there for Dave Menino. He's going to bring that Mercedes out to the outside and keep it pushing along.
Yeah, he's making his way through by the looks of things. But unfortunately, DJ, we might well get a red flag here to unfortunately restart the race because of those 5 drivers that dropped out in the pro category. Apparently, well, I saw 5, but apparently 9 drivers have dropped out early on in this race.
Yeah, so it is a red flag situation out on track. As we said, this race will be restarted. Some problems there with iRacing causing that big collision as they go. That's going to take us to a quick break here while we get everything resorted. We will be back with the resumption of this race as we get everything, as we said, resorted and reset.
welcome. That's what I'm talking about. Whoa.
Welcome back to the Circuit de la Sarre for the Race Anywhere World Series from the first round from Le Mans. Thank you so much for hanging with us through those technical problems that we had here. My name is DJ Clark, joined by Ewan O'Leary up in the booth with David, and David Christie is our director and producer behind the scenes. And Ewan, we've had a minute to sort everything out. It looks like everything is ready to go. A little bit of a change in the running order. We are now in store for a 40-minute race out here instead of a 50-minute race, but I think that's just going to make things a little bit more exciting as we run.
Yeah, just trying to shorten or keep the event, the length of the event down to what it should have been, while preserving the pit stop as well in this second race as well, which of course there will be. Still not entirely sure on the wording that was used, because nobody said that explicitly that it's mandatory. But they're expecting most drivers to have to make a pit stop anyway throughout this race. It is quite a long race with a 50% limit on these fuel tanks, of course, and at a circuit where you're on full throttle for so long. It will be a very big surprise to see anybody able to make it anyway. So, yeah, we will be seeing a pit stop throughout this one. Maybe a slightly shorter rate, of course, but there will only be, it's only going to knock 2 or 3 laps off this one. So it's just that a slight little bit less time for those from the back to make their way to the front. However, I don't think those guys who did well in the first race are going to have any problems making their way through the field this second time around.
I have to fully agree with you there, and we saw in the little bit of running we had in this second race before it was red flagged that there was plenty of drivers that were able to slice and dice their way up through the field. As now we get ready to grid up here and go racing in race 2. Lining up in pole position, it's going to be Gary Brown, followed by Mark Chapman, Jeremy Littleton, and Aero Urexoy behind them. Dave Menino will be 5th, followed by Shane Larson, with James Costa and Jonathan Roulette in 8th. Kaidiel lines up in 9th, followed by Alex Trevor, with Jeremy Morest and Dean Timms behind them. Then behind that, it will be Chase Wilson and Harry Wills, followed by Sean Campbell and Thomas Fisher, rounding out your pro field of 16 drivers. But what about the AM category here, Ewan?
The McLaren of Daniel Florea will be on the first position ahead of Andrew Hewitt. Drew Neubauer, who got off to a great start in the first attempt at this, is going to be starting from 3rd again. Charles Boschel alongside him in 4th. Jeff Carollo in the top 5 ahead of Michael Kulaga. Then James Hebb is going to be 7th with Justin Delano alongside him. Michael Fowler will be in 9th position ahead of Travis Kepler. That's going to be Stephen Martinez just outside of that top 10, with Matthew Plaisance in that 12th position. 13th is going to be Eric Kulaga ahead of Braden Mailing, and Fabian Ponce will be 15th, and the final of those drivers to be involved with the reverse, the 79, the 78 and the 62 have all been still at the back because they didn't complete 50% of the first race, and so don't get included in the reverse grid, don't get to go towards the front of the AM category. So we're getting set to go underway once again for 40 minutes of racing. The Porsche curves to negotiate on this formation lap, and then we'll be underway once again.
Yes, we will. And remember, as we've seen the last couple of restarts here, it is going to take a little bit longer to get the field through everything as they go. The green flag, not necessarily the indicator here. It's going to be when the leader crosses over that start-finish line that we get onto the loud pedal. And with the 40-minute session that is out here, I think that's going to amp up the stakes a little bit, Ewan, on the drivers in the back. Some of those drivers like Sean Campbell, Harry Wills, Chase Wilson, that we saw really doing a great job in that first race. I think they're going to have a little bit of an impetus to push their way forward up through the grid.
I mean, yeah, they're just going to repeat what they did in the first time around, really. Sean Campbell especially is just going to try and repeat his tricks from the first race. Can't see... Harry Wills is there. Campbell got off to a good start last time. He's got 10 minutes less to make his way through the field, but I still don't think it'll be a problem because we barely got 10 minutes into the first attempt at this, and he was still up nearly inside the top 5. I know some of those were down to disconnections, but even so, Sean Campbell got off to a very quick and flying start in that first attempt, so there's no reason why he won't be able to do it again when we get underway here in a few moments' time.
Have to agree with you there, and we'll have to see if some of the leaders are able to pull away. Remember, Mark Chapman able to get a little bit of a gap going in that second race last time out. We'll have to see if he's able to do it this time, as there you can see drivers trying to weave back and forth a little bit, get those tires up to temperature, make sure everything is working as perfectly as possible. Going relatively single file here through the Ford chicanes as we'll get reformed up Once they come out here onto the start-finish straightaway at the Circuit de la Sarthe, there it all starts to come together, waiting for those leaders to go, and we wait for it, and there goes the green. We are back racing again at the Circuit de la Sarthe at Le Mans as we continue to go here, diving down into the corner. Here comes a little bit of side-by-side. That's Jeremy Littleton looking up to the inside there of R.A.W.S, but it's going to be a relatively single-file start, starting to fan out through the first chicanes.
Yeah, Littleton's going to try and repeat his tricks from the first attempt, with Gary Brown converting, though, off of the start here to take the lead down the hill through towards Châteaurouge for the first time. Behind, it is a clean start between those guys as they make their way through the first sector. R.A.W.S holds back his teammate Jeremy Littleton there, and that might be a little bit costly later on as the front two begin to get away as they make their way down onto the Mulsanne straight for the first time.
And this is where that mega draft is going to start to come into play as we take a look back to the AM field, able to get underway there. And it's a brilliant start from Thomas Fisher, really able to pull away for her. But there they go, diving down now into the corner again, a little bit of side-by-side as they continue to run. But the field looking like they've been able to get everything in a little bit of a wall, as that is going to be a slowdown potentially for Jeremy Littleton.
Not entirely sure whether that's a slowdown or whether there is damage on that Lamborghini at the moment. There certainly was a spin there in the background for Braden Mailing there, who did a great job in the first race, of course. But yeah, this is more than a slowdown for Jeremy Littleton. There's damage on that car, and I think he's debating going straight back to the pit lane here.
Yeah, I think he is as well. I'll tell you who else picked up a little bit of slowdown. That's going to be Mark Chapman at the front of the field, cutting through the first chicane there, unfortunately, and he was able to bleed some of that time away right now. R.A.W.S recognizing that and trying to take advantage there. You can see the Mercedes driver serving that slowdown. Cones go scattering there as they go into the second Mulsanne chicane.
Yeah, he's just having to serve that and go down to third place. Oh, what's happened now to Campbell? Oh yeah, he's completely slowing down, isn't he? Look at him on the right-hand side. This is more than a slowdown as well. I wonder if he has had contact with Jeremy Littleton, because there's damage to the front end of that Mercedes, possibly, that I can see there. And the two of them were running close together in the order at the time Littleton started to slow down, and throughout the opening portion of this race. So I think the two of them have made contact.
Ooh, almost a little bit more contact as we jump back to the AM battles as they work their way now down the Mulsanne straight, going into the second braking zone, the second chicane. Neubauer trying to see if he can get anything on Floria, but that McLaren able to keep it at bay. A good run there for Carollo, trying to carry some speed around the outside of the chicane. Didn't exactly look like that was going to pay out for him, and they're going to get themselves back single file now as they work their way towards the Mulsanne hairpin, trying to see what it is. Looks like Vincent Nakarju there having a little bit of problems in the back of the field, as well as Boschel.
Let's have a look what happened to these guys towards the back end of the field. There's already some tyre smoke up in front here, and I think there's already a car around in front here. Oh, well, that's all very weird. Maybe a slowdown, but the last corner was so long ago that I'd be surprised if he was still clearing one by that point. As James Hebb, it looks like he might have been off the road in the AM category. Certainly a lot going on in this opening lap.
And here is one of the protagonists that we saw in really that 3-4 car battle up for the final podium position, and that is going to be Alex Trevor, already up 5 positions, starting to threaten here on the number 17 of Shane Larson as they go through the Porsche curves. We talked about it plenty in that last race, that the Porsche curves not necessarily an area where you want to try to get that overtaking done, but certainly a place that you can try to press, see if you can get the driver in front of you offline.
Just looking every which way at the moment, Trevor outside of Shane Larson. There's not really space there, and so he's just going to have to back off going into the corners here. Not quite as strong of a start for Sean Campbell on this occasion. He is 10th position and behind some of those who really will challenge him later on in this race. It's a lot closer for the leaders as well, although it is still a 1, 2, 3, or maybe you could include the top 10 cars in this battle for the lead. It's a lot closer than what we saw at the first attempt at this, where the field really was quite strung out quite early on. It's all very close at the moment as they start lap 2.
Yes, indeed, and we watch Harry Wills here, who's been able to get a good run up through the field, able to get a position or two away from his old sparring partner there of Sean Campbell, now working on the back of Dave Menino, I believe, as they run through the chicanes here, working into setting up for Châteaurouge. Let's see if Harry's able to get a good run through that corner. Always so crucial to get it right. Everybody's starting to fan out a little bit. Battle up front looking like it's fanning out there, as that's going to be DL and Urexoy, and I think that's a slow down there for Menino.
It is out of Chetrus. It's such an easy place to do it, but it hurts you so much down this straight. It's going to give everybody in this group a position there. He drops down to 10th place. There's just up in front the BMW of Urexoy using the straight line speed of that car to get up into second place, and of KDL once again, who's trying to make his way through here. I do actually fancy him to take the lead early on in this race, although he would have liked to have done that a little bit earlier, because now some of the stronger drivers, some of the faster drivers coming from the back of the field are starting to get quite close towards him, and so in terms of holding on for the entire race, it's becoming more difficult.
Yes, it is, and that 3/4 of a second gap right now that Gary Brown has on the rest of the field. Rest assured that Porsche is going to find itself swallowed up here in just a matter of time. There you see Harry Wills and a big fan out from drivers. That's Kai DL and Alex Trevor both trying to work their way around. DL sending a move down to the inside of Urexoy, but Urexoy says no thank you. May have gone off track a little bit there as they go, and getting his elbows out. There is Kai DL pushing his way forward.
I think he was just really over the curves there rather than a proper off-track moment. Very aggressive battle though between the two of them. Everybody's in one train though, and if you do look your head out like we just saw with Trevor there, you are going to find yourself in trouble because of the amount of slipstream going on at the moment. There's a lot of weaving going on. Oh no! Into the Mulsanne chicane, and there it is! Oh, into the wall for Urexoy. Remarkably, he is the only car caught up in that.
Desperately holding on to the brakes there was Ariel Urexoy, and doing it absolutely brilliantly, but he tags his teammate Costa there as he tries to get himself back restarted.
How on earth did that happen? Well, anyway, he got back going again. He thought he was clear. He thought that was it in terms of the pro car, but this is how it all happened. Now, does he weave back across? See, the Mercedes of Trevor there makes his way down the inside. Urexoy does seem to come back towards him there. You can see Trevor is right across that curve. He's actually got four wheels off the road at one point while they were still making contact. That for me is a slight... Excuse me. That for me is slightly on Urexoy there. That incident, but obviously it's kind of a self-punishing incident almost, if you like, because he's the one that ended up in the wall.
Yes, it is, and look at this, Ewan. Look who is back nose to tail. Harry Wills and Sean Campbell are protagonists from the lead of the race in the first time out. They are back in it now, up into 4th and 5th positions respectively as they fly their way through the Porsche curves. This Lamborghini and this Mercedes had an absolutely titanic duel in race 1, and now they are on track to be doing it again.
Yes, they are. However, it's going to be more difficult with the pit stops and whatever for them to stay quite as close, as Daniel Florea is still leading at this race at the moment. He obviously in the first attempt at this fell back very quickly, but this time around he is having a much better time. I think Steph Carollo is trying to make his way through from 5th on the grid to try and get first by the end of lap 2, trying to outpace that McLaren in a straight line, which is always a very difficult thing to do, but he's going to attempt to into the Porsche curves side by side with Kepler, Nubar and also Platons just in behind. This leading group of 5 battling it out at the moment. Florea, though, outside line, is going to struggle to hold on to the lead, and he doesn't. Carollo takes it from him.
Yeah, and that there from Florea was really all set up by what appeared to be an overly defensive line coming down into Indianapolis. I think he was driving in his rearview mirrors a little bit more than he would have liked to, and that allowed for Carollo to just set him up perfectly, the Illinois driver, to be able to push his way forward. Now he is going to find Kepler all up behind him, and indeed Kepler even having a look down to the inside, going into the Ford chicanes. The Twisted Racing machine, though, able to hold out there in that very, very distinctive livery on the McLaren.
It is a very distinctive livery as the Lamborghini makes a bit of a mistake there. We go back up to the pro cars because for whatever reason a few of them have dropped back a little bit. Trevor for some reason down in 9th all of a sudden, and Wills and Campbell are now in that battle for second place that is going on, with Cardio trying to get away from the rest. Urexoy obviously has found himself in the wall, but he was previously leading, and where have they gone? Gary Brown there has been reeled in very quickly. And this is all over the front straight, so Brown has already been displaced by this point, and Trevor has got to slow down through the final chicane. That's how he's ended up so far down.
Well, and it just goes to show you there what can happen around this Circuit de la Sarthe. So very tricky to get things right. Florea having an issue there in the McLaren. The dreaded off-throttle oversteer, no doubt, coming to play.
It It is a very oversteery car, and I'm afraid the McLaren... Oh, no, it was grass. It was grass. I don't think it was oversteer. I think there was a wheel on the grass there. Difficult to see from that angle, but it's pretty obvious to see where he's ended up in the gravel, I'm afraid, for Floreo, and that's a disappointment for the driver that started on the first position in this race.
Yeah, he is going to find himself down the order there, and obviously we talked about bringing as much speed as possible through Touch Rouge. You can just see that little bit of a kick up there on the right-hand side of the car. I think you called that absolutely perfectly, Ewan. Just a little bit of grass there for the McLaren.
You used to be able to get away with that on iRacing, but times have certainly changed. You absolutely cannot make a mistake here anymore on the grass. It's more punishing than it ever has been, and more realistic, arguably, as well. So they're out into the gravel on the outside there, running down the hill. But further up into the pro category, this is all changed. R.A.W.S is down to second place and having a decent start to this one towards the end of lap 3. But R.A.W.S is holding his own very well as well, as is Gary Brown, actually, who has obviously finished the last of the pro cars in the first race. But Sean Campbell sends his way down the inside into the left-hander and makes his way through into third.
And that was a little bit of a big send there for him, but he was able to get it done. And now it's going to be Dean Timms looking to do the same thing around Gary Brown. And in the space of 2 corners, Gary Brown finds himself down 2 positions. That's going to be a little bit frustrating there for the Porsche driver, but he's at least able to pull back to the back of Dean Timms right now and not lose too much of that draft. Meanwhile, we ride on board right now. This is that send from Sean Campbell. Absolutely electric. Full commitment down into Indianapolis. That's how you get it done.
Don't forget, that's the corner that he triggered the race-winning move in the first race as well, with that pass on R.A.W.S. So he does like that braking zone. He does like that section of corners there. And so making good use of it there to get up into third place, as we have a replay here of Charles Boschio into the second chicane. Olympus Esports driver goes sailing in, and a bit too late on the brakes there is going to result in a spin, I'm afraid, for him.
Maybe a little bit of front-end damage as well to that Mercedes-AMG GT3, although it looks relatively okay, not seeing too much off there, but we've got to keep our eyes focused here on this battle. Brown able to hold off right now. Trevor and Russ behind him, but it looks like those 2 dueling Mercedes are going to be coming on like a train with a full head of steam here in just a couple of moments' time.
Yeah, it looks like it. This battle for 5th is certainly raging as things stand, and Gary Brown is just about picking up as many points as he possibly can, really, for those drivers who finished down towards the bottom end for the first race. In terms of the second one, it's just about holding on for as many of these cars as possible, but we're still over 25 minutes to go. There's no point really giving it absolutely everything to try and keep those cars behind. The 79 has gone around in a big way at the Porsche curves.
Wonder if that is a little bit of contact, and that is going to be done and dusted for the Michigander there, pulling it down pit lane. Chase saying this is it out. But here is Gary Brown, as you talked about, the FTR Esports driver number 49 in that Porsche 911 GT3R, just trying to hold on to points here, but it looks like Trevor is at least going to be a driver to try to get up on by him, and I think he's going to try to pull R.A.W.S along with him. They're going to have the preferred line going down into the first chicane here, and indeed that Porsche just kind of getting out of the way. I think Gary recognizing the writing on the wall.
Oh my word, Trevor there was so close to the wall, and that's something you don't see very often because it is technically outside the track limits, and so he's going to suffer from that, with Jeremy Rest making his way through possibly in that battle for 5th. But we're looking back from KDL now, because there could well be a battle for the lead going on between him, Wills and Campbell as well. I actually think that DL will be able to stay with these guys, or at least battle with them for a good portion of this race, because he does have very strong pace around here, and he did so at Road America as well. One of the stronger drivers, certainly one of the top half drivers you expect to see in the top 5. Just didn't have a great race 1 in terms of the way it actually unfolded, so he might be able to stick with these 2, who are once again going to do battle in this race.
Well, and we talked to a couple of the drivers that found themselves 3rd and 4th there in the pro category, and it was really honestly a situation of just losing out on that draft in that first race and letting Wills and Campbell just slip away off into the distance. But look at that run there coming out of Mulsanne for Harry Wills, the number 95, with an absolute power of a run. I think we're going to see a move here potentially coming down into Indianapolis, and here he comes. Looks down to the inside of Kai DL. They're going to be side by side here as they go through the kink. That's going to get them there, and that's going to give Harry Wills a nose ahead and a little bit more. Kai DL backing off a little bit, and Wills up into the lead of the race.
It's big sent down the inside into the left-hander though. DL, Wills just gives him the room on the inside there and holds on to the place, using the banking to his advantage there. But yeah, that was a send from DL. I'm not sure he did back off actually going down towards Indianapolis. I think that just overspeed for Wills was just so overpowering that he was actually clear before the corner as the battle for the lead in AM also changes hands at the moment.
Yes, it does. Kepler trying to make a move there, cutting a little bit close onto Mulsanne. He's got to hope that that wasn't a slowdown. I think he's going to be okay as he tucks his way behind the Lamborghini there of Carollo. Only about 22 thousandths of a second separating them, and Plaisance there not too far back as well in that Ferrari. A very, very good battle. This, again, the lead for AM, and they've got to keep a little bit of a watch out. If they really get themselves into a scrap here, Neubauer in fourth is going to have something to say about it, as indeed, here we go, Plaisance and Kepler trading positions going down into the sweeping right-hander.
Yeah, Carollo, of course, took this race lead about 7 minutes into this one on lap 2, going towards the Porsche curves. That was away from Florea, who's down in 10th now, but he's coming under increasing pressure from Plaisance and Kepler and Neubauer, who all, I believe, started behind him in this race, indicating that they did a little bit better in the first race of the day. As we go on to lap 4 up front here, 16 minutes into this one. It's even going to be a 10-lap or an 11-lap race, by the way. Just depends how long the pit stops really take, and depends on the pace of the race at the front. And so, but I think it's leaning more towards 11 laps in this one here today, approaching half distance as we speak.
Yeah, only about 3.5 minutes away from that half-distance mark. We continue to watch Jeff Carollo here, the Illinois driver, working his way ahead. Oh, that's Chase Wilson. That's not the ideal line going down through the 4 chicanes. 76 is going to find himself now under attack from Mark Chapman. Excuse me, that wasn't going down through 4. That was through the first chicane. Excuse me, as now we climb our way through the Dunlop Bridge and out and under through these sweepers. Let's take a replay of exactly what happened here for Chase. I'm not entirely sure. He may have just clipped a little bit of the outside.
Oh my word. He got help, big help there from one of the Lamborghinis. Now, who was that who got into the back of him there? Possibly Shane Larson, I want to say, but I'm not entirely sure. It was, yeah, that was a good guess. Yeah, Shane Larson, unfortunately getting into the back of him, it's just a bit of a misjudgment, and it's very easy to do, really, into the first chicane, because, of course, you're kind of turning and then braking all at the same time, which is never ideal.
No, it's not. It's here Wilson and Chapman going to go side by side down into the first chicane on the Mulsanne, and they're able to sort themselves out nice and easy. That is going to be Dave Menino there behind, maybe trying to close in a little bit. We check back in on the lead for the AM drivers as they work their way now out of the corners, picking up speed here, going down into the Porsche curves. My goodness, it looks like Plaisance all over the back of, or Kepler all over the back of Plaisance, excuse me.
Yeah, it looks like it. A great run through Tetrews is going to do enough for the Mercedes, and the slipstream as well being given by Carollo there too. Kepler is going to tow him along into this position before the corner, I think. Ferrari is going to stay on the inside line, but I'd be surprised if Plaisance really dives this on the inside. I don't think it's the smartest thing to do either. He breaks that little bit earlier and falls into line to let this battle continue on further, and it is going to continue in this race, I would imagine, as is this one. Another 3-car battle for the lead, this time in Pro.
Yeah, Wills, DL, and Campbell running 1, 2, 3. They are going to have a little bit of lap traffic in the form of Eric Blumenkrantz coming up ahead of them. We ride on board right now with the third place car of Sean Campbell and that RSR by butt-kicker number 26 Lamborghini Huracan GT3. A little bit of a bump draft maybe there going down into the sweeping right-hander. Everybody's going to get on the binders. Doesn't look like anybody's going to go for a move as we get closer and closer to the halfway point. By the way, we have had a couple of drivers come on down pit lane. R.A.W.S, I believe, did, but that was for an incident, and so ignore that point.
I think he's out of the race. Although we have seen Blumenkrantz in the AMP category come in, and a couple of others maybe as well, but everybody looking to stay out for the moment. Campbell, though, might decide to go for this move. I think he's electing to bump draft at this stage. He knows that if he does that, he can keep this group together for that little bit longer, but if he tries a move on DL, he risks getting those two, getting distanced by Wills, who won't obviously have to battle with a car, and so he really wants to keep this group together and keep things safe for the moment, as Drew Neubauer, has gone around at Mulsanne corner. I'm sure that was possibly with maybe contact with that front three, maybe on his own, but it's rare to see a car completely spin out of there with the traction control that these cars have.
Yeah, it is a little bit strange, especially in the Mercedes. That tends to be a little bit more of a planted car. The AMG GT3 Evo tends to have almost a little bit of understeer as it runs. You really got to, but you're really able to lean on the car a little bit more. Oh, is going to be Kepler? Kepler around coming out of R.A.W.S.
Both Mercedes having trouble at these slow corners. Let's see what happened here to Kepler. Did he get contact here from the Ferrari? Or was it completely on his own? Breaks into the corner normally. He takes that curb. He can do that. And yeah, he spins around at R.A.W.S. So Travis Kepler's going to be very disappointed with that. But that was a bit strange, really. I don't think he did a lot wrong there, really.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what happened to Travis Kepler there, as I can report now, by the way, that we do indeed have pit stops starting to fire off. Looks like Gary Brown, Dean Timms, Mark Chapman, Jeremy Rest, Alex Trevor all opted to come down here, pretty much splitting this race in half. But we've got to keep our eyes focused here because Harry Wills under a little bit of pressure from Kai DL. They're going to be side by side as they work their way by Eric Blumenkrantz.
Yeah, that's one of the lap cars there. You can see the BMW just involved in this side-by-side battle for the lead. It's a very long straight towards the first chicane. DL's got the inside line, and he's got the position as well. Wills just cuts in front of Campbell. It was a little bit risky because the two were very close together. However, he did just judge that one right. He gets a nice run through the first chicane and might try and respond into the second, or he's going to try and push the orange Mercedes in front of him down this straight. I think he's electing to push. Let's see here. Oh no, he's just not that close enough just for the moment. Campbell is not quite close enough either at the moment, but there might well be dives into this chicane.
And we could certainly see it. A little bit of a poke to the outside there for Harry Wills. Everybody trying to separate themselves out into the braking zone. Not seeing any moves there, going down now into the second chicane. Maybe waiting to see if pit stops are going to be the way to try to get on by, as it is Mercedes versus Lamborghini here in this second 40-minute race. Again, we are over the halfway point. We anticipate pit stops probably coming in for the leaders here on this lap as they run. Looks like Wills getting a bump draft there from Campbell, but opting to not go for the move.
Yeah, Campbell wants to keep this group together going into the pit stops, and I can see him being into the pit lane at the end of this lap, if indeed, whether there's front two do or not. I'm actually surprised he didn't last time, but we're certainly within the window now. It's not a long stop that you have to take on, though, although wild fluctuations in the amount of time the guys are spending in the pit lane from those five that came in on that previous lap there. Not only 9 seconds for Chapman, but 23 for Alex Trevor at the smallest and largest, so that's a bit weird, but we'll see what happens when these three get back towards the line again.
Well, I have to think that coming down pit lane here with only a 40-minute race, you're probably not going to be taking tires, and so an fuel-only stop would make sense. But even with that, a 9-second stationary time in the box does seem a little bit suspect to me. Looks like there, though, that coming out of R.A.W.S, Kai DL able to get a little bit of an advantage over Harry Wills. Sean Campbell just keeping tucked up behind. Not a lot of bump drafting here as they go. Not trying to push too hard, I think, going down through the sweeping entry into the Porsche curves, and indeed they separate themselves out just a little bit as they run.
Yeah, a little bit of separation there now through the Porsche curves again. Campbell's so close to the back of Wills, he's got to be careful not to cause an accident there, because he will get a penalty for that. He will want to avoid, of course. Staying very close out of that section of corners, very tricky section of corners, and now we'll see whether the pit stops are really going to kick off in this front group. Are we going to see anything here for DL or Wills or Campbell? Oh, it's hard to know because they do dip half a car width in there to just get the entry to the Ford chicane, but nobody on this occasion. Everybody carrying on, and I think they can do at least 2 more laps here.
Yeah, I think you're right, Ewan, that is about what we figured they would be able to do here. Sean Campbell now a little bit closer to Dean Timms, having a little bit of a look to the inside there through the first sweeping right-hander. Not going to necessarily poke his nose. I think that's not the best overtaking opportunity, although we've seen plenty of cars be able to do it. It does look like that Shane Larson is going to be the most recent driver to come down pit lane there. The number 17 opted to come down and get his service.
Yeah, the pit stop window's very wide now due to the way this race is. As Travis Kepler, I'm afraid, is off the road, and it's in a bigger way than what we saw earlier. There's a lot of damage to that Mercedes now, I'm afraid, through the Indianapolis corner, but out through Tetraroos once again for the leaders. Down the Mustang straight into the first chicanes again. Are we going to see any moves here? I don't think we're going to see any from Sean Campbell. He just seems to be watching on from behind.
Well, and I kind of like that there from Campbell. A lot of that patience it tends to really exhibit. Or here comes the run. my goodness, and there's a big bump draft. He's got to be a little bit careful. You never want to be pushing the pusher. That is one of the rules of bump drafting. And Campbell now having a little bit of a look as the two Mercedes in unison go to the outside.
I'm not sure we're not seeing fuel saving here between these drivers, because look, the way that Campbell closed there was not normal. That was not average from what we saw. DL, in my opinion, is not even full throttle down the straights here. Wills doesn't want to go through on him. He wants to get that slipstream a little bit. He wants to save that little bit of fuel. Campbell wants to do the same as well. So they're all lifting off going down these straights. And I believe they might even try and stretch this the whole way, or at least shorten their amount of pit stops. Campbell now, though, maybe just foregoing that a little bit. He wants to move up into second place. He's finally found a moment where he can move up into that place without losing the actual leader and letting the leader get away. So he's taken his opportunity straight away and he's moved up into second.
Well, and it's that kind of calculation there from drivers that you really like to see in some of these longer form races here. Definitely the way to get yourself by around a long track here like Le Mans. You do not want to be over eager to try to get your way up forward. As we now watch back in the AM category right now, Plaisance having a little bit of a look on Carollo. These two aren't waiting around at all. They're going to be side by side going down into the second chicane onto the Mulsanne. Excuse me, that's the first chicane onto the Mulsanne, and it looks like Plaisance is going to be able to take the lead in the Ferrari.
Yeah, it looks like it. That's DL once again just getting pushed by Campbell by the looks of things. There it is. Unfortunately, we can't hear what's going on. I'm trying to maybe find out whether there's any fuel saving going on at the moment, but it's hard to tell. DL just gets a little bit out of shape through the right-handed part, gets it back to the left-hand road, and just keep it within the lines. So are we going to see pit stops this time around? Are we going to see them at all here? I'm not convinced, really.
Yeah, we'll have to see. As we said, it's not actually mandatory pit stops. It's more dictated by fuel consumption and a fuel limit being placed on these cars. And there is certainly a potential that you are able to make it. There again, we see Sean Campbell giving that little bit of a bump draft to Kai DL, going down into the Porsche curves, backing off before we get to the sweeping nature of these corners, not really wanting to try to push your way forward at all. Waiting to see here if anybody's going to be able to duck down pit lane. It looks like Harry Wills has lost just a little bit of touch with the back of them, but he's certainly be able to gain that up with the run out of Touch Rouge going back down Mulsanne.
As we go back to the leading battle in AM again, Plaisance versus Jeff Carollo. We've seen good fights in both categories this time around. The AM category didn't quite have that through race one, but the Pro certainly did. And now we're seeing it in both as well, side by side. Here, outside line for Carollo. Is he going to be able to make the move? Well, we'll wait and see as DL comes into the pit lane right now.
All right, that at least answers one of our questions about the leaders here. Kai DL obviously opting to come down pit lane, not thinking he's going to be able to make it, but Sean Campbell continuing on that strategy of bump drafting. We watched the decision here as that almost got to be a little bit hairy there between the three.
Oh, Campbell just let Wills through there. I wonder if he realised that DL was going to pit there, and so he wants to fall in behind Wills to try and save that little bit of fuel here, but not entirely sure. There's 12 minutes to go here, and in terms of making it to the end, I don't know at this stage. The top 5 are yet to come into the pit lane, and it's going to be at the end of lap 8 if they have to come in here. So, and if they can make it, then this is without a doubt the fastest strategy by the looks of things at the moment. But it's a question about whether they can make it.
Yeah, it certainly is. We're not sure. Like we said, that red flag period and the shortened session here changing things up a little bit as it runs. And so we're not sure what this strategy is going to be like for this race. I'll tell you what, though, Sean Campbell doing what he's done on the last couple of times, going down into that first chicane there, just fading out to the outside. Not really a real overtaking maneuver there, but just kind of trying to maximize the line. Looks like there, Harry Wills coming back to run in the middle of the track, and Campbell just going to be following right behind in his tire tracks.
Yeah, no movement here really. It's a very interesting situation in this race. I believe that there's going to be an 11-lap race if indeed these guys don't come into the pit lane. They are going fast enough for that. Jeff Carollo all of a sudden, is that Fowler behind him at this stage? It is. So how has Fowler closed up quite so quickly? Because that gap was quite big as the last time we saw them. I know the Plaisance is in right now, but I wonder if if Plaisance and Carollo made contact or lost a lot of time at somewhere, because that gap for the lead is a lot closer.
Yeah, it certainly is, and we've seen just how much scrapping those two leaders for the AMP category have done over the course of this run, as really opposed to Campbell, Wills, and DL here that have played pretty clean this entire time, and definitely working together to try to get themselves up forward, as now we watch Wills and Campbell coming out of Le Mans. This is going to be the do-or-die moment, we think, in terms of pit stops on whether or not these two will come down pit lane. It does also look like the Daniel Floria is coming down. Maybe a little bit of a move here. Harry Wills, I think, maybe just letting Campbell on by, trying to get a little bit of that fuel saving done himself.
Yeah, I wonder if there's going to be a bit of an agreement here for the two of them to just exchange positions for the next few laps. Can they agree to maybe fuel save that little bit, exchanging positions, and then when they get to the final laps, they can really go for it when they know that they're safe on fuel. I wouldn't put it past them to be able to agree that, but Sean Campbell just flew past Wills there, and by the way he went through Indianapolis there compared to Wills, I just wonder if Campbell has accepted the fact that he's not going to make it, and he's decided to just go for this. But it all remains to be seen. There's still 3 laps to go, and we get to the line here, don't forget, and that is quite a long way round, really. Certainly at a circuit like this, of course, still got nearly 40 kilometres of racing to go. But in terms of time, we're going to be going up to closer to 43 minutes, really, because of the way that the laps work around here.
Yes, we will, and now we're going to have a little bit of the truth time here with about 8 minutes and 45 seconds left on the clock. Let's see if either of these drivers do opt to come down pit lane. Battle for P1, though, right now in the AM category as they run. That's Fowler and Carollo, and both of our leaders coming into the pits. Neither of them can make it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not entirely sure. We might have been, or I might have just been speaking complete rubbish about the fuel saving and whatever was going on there, because yeah, the two of them are in. As the side-by-side battle for the AM lead that goes on. Michael Fowler retains that for the moment, but they also have come in, by the way, at the front of that race. Still waiting for the top 4 in AM to come in at this stage. But where is Kai DL going to be by the end of this? Jonathan Roulette is the only driver who's able to stay out there one more time. DL spent 11 seconds in the pit lane. What's it going to be for Campbell and Wills? Campbell only 9 seconds, Wills as well. So that lap of fuel they saved might have saved them a couple of seconds at the box.
It's certainly mine, and now it looks like Kai DL certainly able to get himself out. He's going to find himself, it looks like, to be 3-4 closing down seconds. He's going to be coming up behind him, but he may have just lost a little bit of the draft. We continue to watch Fowler and Carollo there, still waiting for them to come down pit lane. We anticipate with the leaders of the pro category coming down that probably everybody will indeed have to come down here at this point. Waiting to see, though, if the Twisted Racing team number 54 is going to make that peel off to the right, and yes, he is, and Carollo will follow him.
Yeah, maybe 8 laps does look to be the limit here at Le Mans, with the limitations in fuel being 50% for this series. So Fowler just about makes it into the pit lane in time in the speed. Carollo follows him in. The two of them are going to battle it out, but this is the leader at the moment. Oh, it's interesting to see the gaps a bit further behind. Has Sean Campbell broken the draft there, or is Wills still within it? 1.3 seconds is the gap. DL nearly 2 seconds behind Wills. I do think it's between Campbell and Wills again in terms of this race win. I do think that DL has lost the slipstream and probably won't be able to get it back.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there, and even at that 1.3 seconds between Campbell and Wills, it is going to take a little bit of time for him to be able to gain back in there, although Harry has been able to close down a little bit more, that gap coming down to about 1 second, so we are seeing just an inkling of the draft here running its way around as they wait and as they run. It doesn't look like that Campbell is going to have this all to his own, I think. Harry Wills certainly putting in the time to try to close down on the Lamborghini.
He is. But it really depends what we're going to see by the time we get round to the start-finish line again, because they might even be starting the final lap when they get there. It just depends how much time that pit stop has taken out of them in terms of this race. Only 9 seconds stationary though, so they really didn't lose that much time. They probably will be taking 2 laps to go when they get to the line. Harry Wills though certainly is closing down. Both, as you said there, just the end of some slipstream maybe towards there, but the Mercedes certainly looks to be a bit stronger in a straight line. That was a little bit deep though into Mulsanne corner for Wills, and he has lost a bit of time once again.
Yes, he has, and that's going to drop the gap to about 8.5 tenths of a second right now as they run. Continues to come down here a little bit more through Mulsanne. I think Wills has really just got to get the hustle on here. Kai DL has been able to close the gap down as well, just a little bit. It's down to about 1.9 seconds, although he's losing a little bit of time as Wills begins to get that feeling of the slipstream. Now they're going to bunch themselves up, concertinaing down through our Indianapolis there. It looked like Campbell was just a little bit off the apex through that banked left-hander.
I think we're going to see a very similar situation to what we had in race 1, which of course was a fantastic fight between these two drivers. Sean Campbell came out on top on that occasion, but Wills get his revenge in this race here. Are they going to catch Roulette? 17 seconds out front for the leader right now. He's gone longer than pretty much anybody else in this race. But it's very hard to see him making it all the way to the checkered flag without making a pit stop just yet. Time is ticking down here. We'll have to keep an eye on that clock because I'm not convinced that 2 laps to go is going to be signalled here on this lap. It might well be only 1 to go, but we keep an eye on the clock.
We will indeed. Is there you can see Jonathan Roulette, the Canadian driver, coming down pit lane, so he has called it quits on a no-stop strategy, and that is going to leave the battle just as it was in race 1 between Sean Campbell and Harry Wills. Kai DL 2.5 seconds behind. It looks like he has lost just a little bit of touch here with the rest of the field as they come across the line right now. I think this is going to be 2 to go, but just by the slimmest of margins.
Yeah, we might have crossed the line with about 5 seconds to go, but it's still enough. And we will be going round for one more, so whoever's leading at the time will not be glad about that, but they won't really know at this stage whether this is the final lap or not. And if they fight really hard, then it could well turn into the final lap because they'll be going so much slower. So let's wait and find out as Shane Larson gets things wrong out of Corvette. Let's see what happened to him, shall we? Mercedes not too far behind. That might be Mark Chapman, excuse me. Although it doesn't really matter who's behind because Shane Larson got that wrong on his own.
Yeah, just got a little bit too much over onto the rumble strips there, and that sent that ESR by Skyline Designs Lamborghini around for a spin, and it looks like he's going to be coming down pit lane right now. There you can see Dean Timms as he runs around here. Looks like he caught a little bit of a problem breaking down into the first corner, having those right side tires a little bit too far over onto the curbing, and that sent that car right around.
Certainly did. So these two leaders continue to battle out front. It's really between those two now. DL is nearly 3 seconds back, but still going to be very pleased with his 3rd place at the moment. In terms of points, by the way, you do get more for this second race. 50 for a win here, as opposed to the 40 that Campbell picked up for that first race win. And the gap between first and second is 1 point more as well. So whoever wins this race between these two will take a very early championship lead coming out of Le Mans.
Yes, they will, but not too early enough to be talking about that championship. A little bit of a look to the inside there for Wills as they run. And another thing to factor into consideration here is there may have to be a little bit of fuel saving done. Remember, these guys had very, very quick pit stops in the form of about 9.4 seconds apiece, and they may have not factored for another lap here. We will have to see, and we may see a little bit of backing off here as they run.
I'm not sure. I think the amount of seconds they spent in the box there and the amount of time that was to go in the race, I think there was only 3 laps to go at the time when they came out, and I think they will have known that and they will have put the extra lap in just as an insurance policy there, so I think they will be fine here on fuel, but you never really know. Now he is electing to stay behind. I wonder if he's deciding to stay behind and he wants to be second this time next lap when we get towards the end, because if you remember, Sean Campbell was in that position last time and he went around the outside for the win, so I wonder if Wills has realised that is the place to be, and that's where he's going to be for this final lap.
Well, and remember, we saw Campbell be able to send a good move down to the inside as he ran on the last one, and that was enough to be able to get the move done and get him up into the lead of the race on the final lap. Maybe Dean Timms taking a little bit of a piece here out of Sean Campbell's book, and they go down now through R.A.W.S. Little bit of a slide there on corner entry for Sean Campbell. Definitely feeling a little bit of heat, but with only 0.4 of a second, they don't have that much to lose. And look at that in the background. Only 1.5 seconds back is Kai DL, so he may not be out of this race quite yet.
Yeah, he has closed in. Campbell and Wills are just watching each other a little bit at this stage, and he's getting back into it as this battle for 6th place really starts to heat up. 4 cars involved in this one, including 1 or 2 that you might not expect, especially Dean Timms, who was running inside the top 5 earlier on this race. now outside of it very much. It's the leading battle. I think this is the leading battle in AM going on. It is indeed. Matthew Pleasant's there with a terrible run out the second chicane. I'm not sure if he had a slowdown there.
I'm not sure either, as we are hearing a couple of drivers saying that they were 1 lap early on fuel. Here comes Sean Campbell coming down to the line here through the Ford chicanes. He is going to be able to cross the start-finish line with about those 5 seconds to spin, and that is a spin there! A spin in the back from KDL!
Yeah, we only just got over the line there. Only 2 seconds between us ending the race right there or not. KDL was certainly getting involved though, and he's going to be kicking himself because he could have had a shot at the race win. That has all gone now. It's going to be Sean Campbell versus Harry Wills round 2 as we get down the Mulsanne straight again. I think we're going to have to wait until Indianapolis though to see the move.
I've got to agree with you there, Ewan. I think if Harry Wills is thinking about this in the long run, he is going to want to hold back as much as possible, not send that big move down into either one of the chicanes, and maybe wait until he goes down in Indianapolis. We saw those two go side by side through the right-hand sweeper before the bank left corner. Plenty of times in the first round. Will we see that play out again? But you can see a little bit of the overspeed here from Harry Wills as they go down Mulsanne. He's going to say, nope, I want the move now.
He wants it straight away, and he goes straight through with the Mercedes, and a lot of weaving around in front of Sean Campbell as well, going into the first chicane. So it didn't work for him first time, leading on the final lap. He's going to try it again and try and do this to obviously hold on to the lead here. Is he hoping that Sean Campbell will re-overtake here? I don't think so, by the way. He's weaving around right now.
I don't think he wants to be able to let anything go here, as now Campbell's going to get a little bit of a run. Probably not going to go for a move into the second chicane. At least that's not what we would anticipate here from the Lamborghini. Indeed, he's going to give him a little bit of a bump draft as they go down into the second chicane, and they remain Wills and Campbell 1-2.
Yeah, I think they're going to remain that way until the exit of the Mulsanne corner as well. But what are we going to see afterwards? That is the real question. It's not a great run out of the second chicane for Campbell. It's not a slowdown though. Neither of them can afford, indeed, a slowdown at this stage. That would hand the race to the other without any arguments whatsoever. Can Wills get a good enough run out of Mulsanne corner to hold on to this advantage over Campbell? Even if he does, he's still going to have a tall order. Oh, and he's made a mistake. He's made a mistake, and surely this is Campbell's opportunity to go through.
It has to be here as they run, trying to see what it is. Campbell recognizing that opportunity, pushing as hard as he can, giving a little bit of a bump maybe here to Harry Wills. Wills covers off the kink as they come down. Now the Lamborghini tries to poke his way this way and that, trying to see what he can do. Campbell now looking to the outside. He's going to have to do this the long way around the left-handed sweeper going down into Indianapolis. This is going to be Harry as they go. Can Campbell get the run? Wills unwilling to give. They make contact and they spin out. That's Campbell, but Wills able to keep it pointed the right way.
Wills is going to go on to take the win now, surely. He wanted to fight a lot harder than he did in race 1. He didn't want to see a repeat of what we saw earlier on. Who is at fault for this? It's going to be argued about on and on and on. Campbell's round the outside there. Does Wills squeeze? You've got to say that Harry Wills is off the track at the point he makes contact with Sean Campbell there. Campbell is only following the line that Wills is. Wills is definitely off the road for me. That is on Harry Wills in the Mercedes. I'm afraid he's going to go on to take the win on the road, but I'm not sure it's going to stand afterwards.
I'm not sure it is either. There you see that contact again. Yeah, a hairy situation, and one that we are going to have to go and hear what the stewards have to say about. But right now, Harry Wills coming out of the Porsche curves right now, headed down into the Ford chicanes. Not a lot of time left here. The clock already passed the 40-minute mark. Harry Wills through the first part of the Ford chicanes, down into the second, slowing down here as he goes, and he is going to cross over the line just barely ahead of Sean Campbell.
Yeah, I wonder if he was trying to actually give the win there to Campbell so as to not get a penalty there, but he gets his revenge nevertheless. And I do feel like he feels that will be a penalty by the looks of his car behaviour there. I do agree. I think Campbell will end up being the race winner from race 2 as well as race 1 here when the results all come through properly. But yeah, another great race. 2 last lap passes in the pro category. for the race wins in this race. Sid Campbell here, he's perfectly entitled to make his way around the outside. He's alongside, he's very much on the circuit by the time he gets alongside with Harry Wills. I know on the entry to the corner, he's not that much alongside there. You see from this onboard shot that we might be able to see again, if we can. He's certainly alongside he's certainly on the circuit, sorry, by the time he gets his front wheels alongside Harry Wills' rear wheels. This is the view from Wills. I mean, it's not intentional from Wills. He gets dragged into it, really, more than anything. But still, you've got to leave the car on the outside space. And I do feel like he feels a little bit guilty from the way his car was behaving. I do think he feels a bit guilty about that incident there. And I do think that one is on him.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there about that. It looks like he just drifted out a little bit wide. Not intentional, as we said, but certainly in the wrong. Meanwhile, back in the AM category, it is going to be this man in the Lamborghini number 52. Jeff Carollo brings that car out of the Ford chicanes, and he will take victory here in the AM class. Looks like that will be Fowler, I believe, able to follow him home in the Audi, and Braden Maling going to be third place.
Yeah, makes his way over, 6.5 seconds down. Kulaga and Punt round out the top 5. It's going to be a lot of maths going on. Who's working out, who's done best out of this event here tonight in the AM category. That is going to be a close championship to watch throughout, but Sean Campbell certainly taking control in the pros. And you can just see Andrew here. He's going to be the final driver to come across the line after starting up towards the front, has fell back down towards 12th. Now, you can just see the craziness of Le Mans. He's been driving for, or he will have been driving for nearly 47 minutes in this 40-minute race by the time he makes his way over the line. The crazy thing for him is that 3 minutes of he would have crossed the line with 43 minutes gone in this 40-minute race, and he would still have 1 lap to go. That's just the weirdness of these rules and the way it works.
Yeah, it is indeed some of the strangeness of endurance racing and timed racing, especially around such a long circuit like the Circuit de la Sarthe, as the HRL driver now only has 4 more corners to get his Ferrari through. 1, 2, brings it out to the outside there and into 3 and 4. Nice and careful across the line. Oh, is he sputtering a little bit, I wonder, or is he just taking that nice and carefully as the Ferrari crosses over the line? And that will be the last of our finishers out here today. And that is going to be running us through our race results as we set up in the pro category. Harry Wills able to take victory over Sean Campbell, and now he is going to be maybe looked at after the race for that incident coming into Indianapolis. Kaidiel, though, a good run to be able to come home in third, followed by Jeremy R.A.W.S. with Jonathan Roulette rounding out your top 5. Behind them it was Dave Menino, followed by Dean Timms, Chase Wilson, Thomas Fisher, and Jeremy Littleton in the top 10. Gary Brown was 11th, followed by Mark Chapman, Shane Larson, Alex Treble, R.A.W.S, and James Costa round out your pro finishers. Back to the AMs to you, Ewan.
Absolutely, Jeff Carollo takes a nice win there by 2.5 seconds ahead of Michael Fowler. Braden Melling with his second podium of the day in third. Eric Kulaga and Fabian Ponce round out the top 5. Then we've got Matthew Plaisance, who finishes in 6th position, with Stephen Martinez making his way up to 7th. James Hebb, Drew Newbar and John Casey round up the top 10, with Charles Poschel, the last driver, within a minute. Andrew Hewitt rounding out the cars that finished on the lead lap. Daniel Ferrero was 1 lap down ahead of Justin Delano, Travis Kepler, Eric Blumenkrantz, and a number of others who ended up not finishing at that race here today.
Indeed, and folks, that is going to round out our coverage here today from the Circuit de la Sarthe. Again, my name is DJ Clark. I have been joined here in the commentary booth by Ewan O'Leary, with our director and producer David Christie behind the scenes doing all of the work for us. We head next time out to Spa for the endurance layout as we continue to fly around the world in this Race Anywhere World Series. But we would like to thank you for joining us here today, and until we see you on the track, thanks for watching.